Hey, and how's everyone doing this Saturday? Oh, you may notice that things are a little black below me. We do have a pseudo with us. He just has no video. Welcome, welcome, pseudo. Glad you could make it. Rage is a little under the weather still. We are hoping he feels better soon. Sending our thoughts out to him, but we will push on without him. Now, I don't think we'll be doing this again next week, pseudo. I think we'll probably do some game reviews.
Sounds good.
So let's try to get this to a point where we might actually be able to put some fingers to the keys afterwards. So I figure we'll probably need to have a general understanding of our substats.
Yeah, at least a very basic level, as well as probably some of the user flow.
Yep.
That we kind of need to flesh out, kind of, so we can start prototyping and mocking out everything.
Yep. And if we have time, then we'll also include some deciding on different animals to include in the first one again with people.
Yep, for sure.
We can kick it off with some words from was a panel somewhere where animal suggestions, and Magic Gong did have some wording. Online herd count and pack count, just overall people in the chat participating for each group. So if there are 5 predators, then the current pack number would be 5. That would eliminate the technical challenge of having to database many-to-many relationships while still allowing you to test the pack-herd concept and basic functionality. And it encourages viewers to get others to their group to come into the chat to help tip the scale in their favor. Ah, dear. Definitely something we could consider if we start getting to that point of trying to create that relationship and thinking it's a lot of work and unsure if we want to do it that way. We could try just playing with different numbers based on who's in chat.
Yeah, it definitely could work.
So thank you very much, Magic Gong.
And I think we had the list before in the document that goes over some of the ones that we were kind of shooting out there. But maybe we can try to get some more suggestions from everyone else as to what they'd like to see in the initial version.
Mm-hmm. Can other people hear pseudo very well? I know I get a lot of static on it, but I can still at least hear him. Let me know if you need me to turn it up so you can hear him through the static, and we apologize. He is in transit, doesn't have his proper hardware with him.
But I will next week for the bit, but just got back from the trip.
Yep, and welcome back from Vegas. I hope you had a great time.
Still recovering, but it was a damn good time.
Well, if you had a proper trip to Vegas, you should still be recovering, yes. So, substat model. So we have a stat model. Does chat understand what I mean by substat model? Does chat understand what substats are? I'm guessing there's going to be at least a few that don't fully get what a substat is. So a substat is you have your main attributes, and then you have all these things that are on the side of it that you don't directly get when you level, but they are a calculation of your stats, such as your crit chance, your dodge percent, your block percent, your parry percent, hit percent, all those types of things. That's all substats. We call it a substat because you don't gain crit directly, you gain ferocity and agility, and your crit is calculated off of these. So it is a subset of stats that is figured out based on your main stats. That's why we call them a substat. Make sense?
Yeah, I think I covered most of it. I don't have nothing to add to that.
Yep. I hope that's clear enough. So I'm just checking, make sure chat doesn't have questions. If you do, throw them out there. I'll come back. I'll readdress. Until then, let's just throw out some substats that you want. So, like, for one, I know absolutely Rage would instantly put this one down. Critical. He likes to crit. But as an example, and this really affects the meta and statting and gearing and stuff like that, would you want to modify your crit damage as well as your crit chance? Right, so that's like D3 was the one that really started popularizing that, and a lot of ARPGs have followed through with the crit damage builds. Hey, Dusty, welcome to stream. How you doing today? We're figuring out our substats and how we want this combat to actually work. So, officially addicted to Dota 2. I understand that is a thing that can happen. So much more technique and strategy involved in it than League. I prefer League because it's simpler and I don't have to get sucked in to not suck at it. I'm not good at it, I just don't suck at it.
It's definitely Dota Light.
Yeah, I don't have the time to be good at Dota. That's the whole denial strategy is just so much to absorb and get good at. But at least I actually understand what the denial strategy is. That puts me at least one rung above most people in Dota 2. Pulling it off and doing it, totally different thing to knowing what it is. You understand the denial strategy in Pseudo? I'm assuming.
I don't really remember it, to be honest. It's been a long time since I've played. It has to do with the creeps? Or...
Yeah, the biggest difference between Dota 2 and League is that in Dota 2 you can attack and kill your own creep. Right, so you getting the kill on them prevents the enemy from getting the golden experience from killing it, and you can deny them levels and experience. And if you're really good at it and playing against someone who's not very good at it, you can just dominate them because of that. Just not let them level and just destroy them. Yeah, okay, substats. If you guys aren't throwing any more out, like, do we want blocking to be a thing? Like, this is the kind of thing that we get in substats. If we want blocking to be a thing, then we need to have a blocking substat.
Definitely blocking, parrying, and dodging. Always one of those is going to be kind of required.
You want all three? Block, parry, and dodge?
Maybe one. I guess we can kind of group them all as the same thing. Kind of, at least at the beginning. Just negate hit, I guess. So they all kind of do the same thing at the end.
Would be a single stat for it. I do not mind the idea of block, dodge, parry, either. Because they are distinctly different things. Luck? Okay.
Quick side note on that. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but the Uncharted games, I'm pretty sure this is canon. I think Naughty Dog included it. But the way that the health works in that game is that the main character starts running out of luck, and as soon as he runs out of all of his luck, he actually gets shot and killed.
Interesting.
Which is kind of an interesting way to do it.
It is an interesting way to do it.
It may just be a fan theory, but I think it might have just been confirmed as like a joke by one of the devs.
Interesting. That's a very interesting design approach, and it makes a lot of sense actually as a movie reenactment kind of thing. So I like the idea of luck board, but I've also added it as potentially a main stat because it's hard to calculate luck, and luck can easily be one of your main stats. Because I'm a firm believer in the old saying, the old mantra, it's better to be lucky than good. Because you can be lucky at everything, and you can only be good at some things.
Luck was my favorite stat in Fallout New Vegas.
Luck was my favorite stat in Fallout 1 and 2.
That is fair, and that as well.
Yep. That's why New Vegas was good, because it lived up to 1 and 2 decently. Not 100%, but decently.
Yeah, it was definitely truer to the series than the other ones.
Yes, that is undeniable. Oh, so quick realization that I had while we were playing Shadow of War, thanks to Pseudo. I realized that what we're essentially building right now is a simplified fight pits. That's what we're building. Remember the fight pits? Where we'd go and challenge our orcs and figure out who's strongest? That's what we're designing right now, is an animal fight pit.
Yep, definitely just the arena combat.
Yep, because the arena combat is just two AIs that play out their patterning. Our AI is going to be simpler, our combat's going to be simpler, our decision's going to be simpler, but at the heart of it, we are basically building that part of the game. So, interesting little bits for you. Let's go on. So, okay, like on the block dodge parry side, the typical differences between them, like your standard MMO differences, block prevents a portion of the damage, but not all of it. Dodge prevents all the damage and doesn't count as a hit, and parry blocks all the damage and does count as a hit. Those are distinctly different things in a lot of cases. Now, we don't necessarily need parry because we don't need to have a distinction of hit or not, and also animals don't normally parry. It's normally a block or dodge. The only one that might parry I could possibly think about would be like a narwhal. And they don't.
That'd be hilarious to see.
Yeah, and they don't really use it that way. They use it as more of a club or a tool for digging, like tunneling through ice. So I'm gonna go ahead and say we can nuke parry, but I think block and dodge can be distincted. Maybe. And it might just become dodge later on. So I'm gonna put it.
Yeah, we can just leave it as avoidance for now, because they both, at least at the initial level implementation, will do the exact same thing, which will just be negate damage, and then at least we can kind of keep them there if we want to plan for it and expand on it later on and add some sort of distinction.
The distinction that I would see is, again, block would block some of the damage, almost like an armoring effect.
Yeah.
As opposed to an armor being over the entire body, the block is more like a shield or an armored spot, where if you manage to take the hit in that spot, you would get less damage, and that would be represented by a % chance to put that hit into that spot, which would probably be scaling off of agility. Maybe some off of intelligence as well. Sounds like the Rangers are blowing up there, Mr. Lowe. All right, so critical. And again, I'm doing the work here just to keep this flowing, but we really want your guys' input if you disagree with what we're saying or not. So I'm still looking at critical and saying that's probably going to be based on ferocity and agility. Resilience, is that going to be like armor? What effect do you imagine resilience having?
Typically, that's usually like damage reduction, I believe. Board can correct me if I'm wrong. Like a passive damage reduction.
But I'm wondering exactly how he imagines it. And would you imagine it as vitality and agility? Damage resistance. So we're talking like a tanky armor stat, basically. So I'm going to say vitality is probably going to be core to that. So the more health you get, the less damage you also get on top of it. So vitality is going to be a double impact stat at that point. Charisma would be a primary stat. Not really something that you would calculate. It's not built up by your endurance and your vitality. Charisma, you spelt that perfectly. And charisma represents one's ability to influence other people one way or another. You know, it could be intimidating other people to do what you're doing. It could be a beautiful woman asking you to lift something where you're just going to be like, yes, ma'am, right away, ma'am. That's a lot of charisma. But, you know, a scary prison inmate pulling a knife on you and asking for your wallet, and you're just like, yes, sir, here you go. You know, that's charisma too. He influenced you in order to do what he wanted you to do with his words and his appearance. So it's an interesting stat. It can be used many ways. Do you want charisma? To me, animal interactions isn't a charismatic thing quite often. Accuracy, okay. I'm all aboard for accuracy. What about resilience, vitality, direct scaling, or I could also see it scaling off of agility some, or even an intelligence some, or all three? Accuracy, I'm going to put agility as a key thing that it's going to scale off of. The more agile you are, the more likely you are to hit your target, but intelligence?
Intelligence? Yeah, I'd go with intelligence too.
Right, that's... I don't know if you've been watching Disenchantment at all, but that's the first thing that comes to my mind on that one. There's where Tia Beanie goes to her homeland and meets her numbskull uncle, and he's trying to smash insects with a hammer, and they're like, no, aim where they're going to be, and he smashes and hits and he goes, and just starts smashing insects with it. Like, you know, he was lacking the intelligence to be accurate. A good example.
It's a good show too.
It is a good show. I strongly recommend it. So I'm personally a fan of agility with the vitality on resilience. And the logic for that is if you're agile enough to maneuver yourself, you won't be taking blows front on. There'll be more glancing blows. There'll be more nicks. There'll be more close calls. They're still impacting you, but your resilience is greater. It's rolling with the punches, essentially, which is also what higher hit points is meant to represent. And I'm going to throw out a crazy idea here. What if we use Shadowrun hit point system? Bonus EXP gain.
That could be something to do with luck.
Yeah, luck and intelligence. More intelligence, faster XP. Learn faster.
Yeah, most games do, or most things do, intelligence because it makes sense. You're learning more at a more rapid rate if you're more intelligent.
Yeah, and luck can also totally be a stat to augment your bonus experience. Just, you know, happening upon the thing that you needed to understand. Oh, you know, it's like the apple falling from the tree at the perfect moment to help you figure out gravity. That's luck. Then intelligence also helps you on that front to be able to put those together. So nobody else has said anything, so I'm going to add agility because I think I've made my case.
Yeah, definitely makes a lot of sense.
Endurance is a stat right here. It represents your ability to run, and also probably going to represent your, ability points to use your abilities, I'd imagine. If we have such a thing, would definitely be endurance. We don't have endurance really used down here yet? Or are you saying endurance for resilience? Because I believe our... Okay, no worries.
It happens.
Okay, so the traditional system for hit points in every other game is every time you level up, you get more and more hit points. And like I was saying, this is meant to represent your ability to quote unquote roll with the punches. You know, you can take more hits, and because you don't really actually take more to kill than a regular person, the higher hit points represents the fact that you have to get hit more in order to be inflicting that damage upon you. You've gained in your knowledge in combat in order to not take blows directly. Now, the higher hit points raising, I've never been a big fan of to represent that. Now, we don't have to use super low numbers because that's hard to balance. So Shadowrun, how it works is you have an amount of hit points. If you're a human, you have this many hit points. Period. Humans take that much damage to kill. Doesn't matter who you are. If you get a hole through your chest, no matter how much muscle you have, you're probably dead. And that's what it was trying to represent. Now, to represent the rolling with the punches and gaining skill in combat, you're actually gaining damage reduction and the ability to reduce that damage further and further so that you can actually see the incoming damage reducing and reducing and reducing as you level to increase survivability. And I really like the consistency in the hit points. I think it plays very well into the animal system where we can have varied hit points on a lot of things, and then also greatly varied, avoidance and hit stats and stuff like that. So, the rhino is pretty easy to hit, but he's got a fair amount of hit points and his resistance is pretty damn good. Whereas if you're trying to go after a hummingbird, probably not going to hit it. What do you think?
That makes sense. Do you think we're good on substats? Do you have an idea of how many we want? Do you want to keep it kind of smaller for the initial model so you don't kind of make it too complex right out of the gate?
We don't have to use everything that's put down, but I did want to get some ideas flowing from people. And chance to survive a killing blow.
Could be like, I guess a good play into avoidance, as well as like your chance to avoid a critical hit.
Well, I mean, it's not the only time I've ever heard of a chance to survive a killing blow. Mother 2 did have that substat. And it was scaled off of your guts. More guts meant if you took a big hit, you were more likely to stop at 1 health than die. And I could see that playing off of luck and endurance. What would we call it? Can we give it a better name than chance to survive a killing blow? If we can give it a better name, I'm down to keep it, but I don't want a substat called chance to survive a killing blow. Nah, that's not good. That's not good either.
Yeah, it's too close to resilience.
I want it to, it's going to be something that's only going to happen once in a while. I'm down with it because every once in a while you're going to get those hunts where something looks like it's toast and then all of a sudden saves its life, gets up and takes off. It's going to probably be based off of luck and intelligence. Something like that. Because there are a lot of animals in the animal kingdom that use that trick. Get caught, play dead, thing lets go thinking they're dead, they get up and run away. It happens all the time. How about feign death?
That might end up being something more like a skill or something eventually rather than like a stat. It's just based off your like intelligence and your like avoidance and resilience.
So Board, how do you feel about maybe making it more, a skill or tag that things can get, and then the skills and tags will also scale off of the model, remember? We have crit, we have hit, we have avoid, we have resist, and we have gain extra XP. Which is a fairly basic, straightforward. Sorry, what was the health/damage mechanic? We haven't finalized it, but I'm talking about potentially doing the Shadowrun system, where instead of gaining health every level, you have a set number of hit points based on what animal you are. and then the ability to reduce damage and avoid damage based on stats and the stats needed for the animal, of course you can propose something. Well, it's not however we want. We want to take the ideas that you're doing and make them work. So we want you to say, yes, I like that idea. Really. That's what we'd love to hear. We want it to be your in line and also your idea. Does that sound sane? Creating it more as an ability that certain animals will have. 10 max health, so 1 to 10 is what you get based on your species. It's set. Yeah, it's basically what I'm saying. Essentially what I just said. It's just we'll probably use higher numbers than 1 to 10 just to make it easier to scale things.
And then it fits in with the prey having the turn as a kind of secondary health.
Yep. So you're trying to overcome that health amount before the turn order finishes. Yeah, totally. But are you cool with it not being a substat and it being an ability is more what we're talking about. So not every single animal on every single blow is going to have the ability to resist, but if you've gotten that ability, or certain animals that will just give you that ability, then you can, every once in a while pull it off and it's more of a special thing. And
like those fainting goats.
yeah, well, those aren't actually doing it as a self-preservation thing. That's actually an issue in breeding where they have low blood pressure. And there was also some protein deficiency, I think. It was from inbreeding of the goats. I watched some. Yeah, they actually just have like this rigid muscle issue where when they try to run too quickly, the acids build up and they just go stiff and can't move. It's not meant to avoid predators. If something hunted them, they would just get eaten. Call it what it is, escape death. Yeah, escape death is a good one. As an ability name. Cool with that also. Last chance is also another name we could use. Yeah, I like last chance, escape death are both good. It's more like the Yep, exactly how I was thinking of it. It's exactly how it works in Mother 2, aka Earthbound as well. There it scales off of your guts. That's why the gutsy bat is so goddamn good. Guts affects your chance to crit and also your chance to survive a hit. So almost every swing with the gutsy bat is a crit, and as long as you have more than a few HP, you should survive any hit. Of course, it's also 1 in 100 chance to drop off of a Kraken that you have to fight by yourself that only spawns one of in the game. Oh, mother. What a strange game. So we'll be doing more of a damage reduction system. And then it'll be about you can have vector for that, where certain species pop back up with more HP after escaping death. That's my plan. That's my plan. And if it ever happens in an actual displayed hunt on the stream, then I'd love to have it actually, have a pop-up and a sound and actually display something that it's happened in a special way. Chance of failure. That happens, I think, just based off of the accuracy. There's an assumed chance of failure, and if your accuracy doesn't roll well enough, then you miss. Or are you talking about a chance for ability failures. Because you don't want to have too many calculations, right? You don't want to be rolling a chance to miss on top of a chance to hit. You want to approach it one way or the other, right? So either you assume it hits and you calculate a chance for it to miss, or you assume it misses and you calculate a chance to hit. And if you try to come at it from both ways, you're going to overcomplicate things. You're going to make the game harder to make and play. Remember our core simplicity rule. Games should be easy to play, but difficult to master. I guess you're not in this doc with me, Pseudo. You want to jump in? Type as well.
I thought I had it open. It looks like I accidentally closed it.
All that Vegas recovery getting to you.
Yeah, I'm running at like 10% brain.
That's okay. Pseudo at 10% is still better than most.
There we go, I found it.
What about runaway chance and you can lose? I mean, the problem. Go ahead, Pseudo.
Yeah, so the problem with that is that the runaway is supposed to be their actual target to meet. Like that's what they're supposed to be doing. So we don't really want to punish a player for succeeding on that. If you're playing a prey character, you're supposed to be able to run away and run out of those turns. But we could look at something that's like maybe high risk, high reward, where you have an ability that can drastically reduce how many turns are left before you escape. But if it fails, then it can cost you to lose something.
I don't mind that idea. I think that's a really interesting idea that comes out of that suggestion. Because yeah, like what Pseudo said is absolutely true. That's the core principle of the combat is to escape. But then at the same time, if I'm a player and I send my unit that I'm supposed to control to do something, even if it's an automated task, I want it to do what it's done and not just have a chance to not do what I wanted it to do and waste all that time. Maybe it fails, that's fine. You know, my stats weren't good enough to succeed. That's my fault for not interpreting properly. But if it's just, I can succeed, I will normally succeed, but this time I fail. I've never been a big fan of that design. I find it lazy and just an attempt to consume players' time and money.
Yeah, we to talk about Rift Rob. Yeah, we talked about the predators will have the ability to stop the turn counter from going down if they're catching up to it and stuff like that is part of their
Yep. We talked when we were talking about abilities, we definitely talked about the ability to add turns, extend it, and then the prey having ability to reduce turns with different types of maneuvers. Then we can even scale it. You know, they could reduce turns based on the endurance of the predator. Yeah, no worries. And you know, coming up with an idea a second time is never a bad thing. You and I both know this. It might trigger a thought from somebody else and add a critical piece to the game that you never even thought about. Yeah, I like the idea of actually scaling them too, off of the predator's stats for the escapes, so that then certain escapes will work better on some predators than others. You know, like a rabbit using a certain type of agility evasion. If their agility is high enough, it doesn't matter. But if their agility is low enough, they could escape many turns. Make sense? I'm pretty happy with substat model. I think we have stat, we have substat, we have enough information for the basics, so really we just need to go over some flows now.
Let me go over some examples, breakouts from the user story.
You want to start?
I had one in here somewhere. I'm gonna try to find that.
Sure. So, to anybody wondering what we're talking about with flow and user example, basically what this is this is where we pretend we're playing the game and we imagine what's going to happen and we write down step by step how we're going to interact with the game and how the game is going to interact with us, so that when we go to put fingers to keyboard and create the code, we have this nice flow created to tell us how to interact with the person. And it's all thought out already. You don't want to be starting your code and then doing your thinking. Not a good way to do it.
So we have the Combat 1.0 mocked out of.
Yeah.
I'm just going to paste it down here for the time being. Oh, it pasted down the numbers too. Awesome. So I think this one's good. I'm not sure if we need to expand this or not, as well as the other. I think this covers them for both, because I think like 1.0 we're automating most of it, unless we want to mock out the actual kind of what things will be like under the hood for ourselves, trying to like determining like initial turn distribution, as well as like under the hood like ability calculation.
Okay, so let's just stop for a second and look at our communication way. So let's say we'll call this 0.1, not 1.0. We won't do PMs because they're so unreliable. So we'll just do main chat bot commands for now. So we want to stay spam friendly. Staying out of PM also allows us to aid more in the actual diagnostic of issues, stuff like that, you know. When people have an issue, if they have it in tell, then they're trying to give us everything that they've been doing, and if we watch what happens in chat and we see it as they're interacting with it, it'll help us pick out a lot more bugs and stuff like that, because the user base that's testing this for us isn't actually a QA team. Some of them might be, some of you guys might be QA, but most of you probably aren't QA, and so us being able to watch the interactions will probably help a lot with debug. That's my argument for that case. What do you think?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we'll be implementing a bunch of admin tools as well, but it'd be nice to have that just in chat firsthand, so we can kind of catch things right out of the gate, kind of going awry, rather than having to check the line.
This also lets us get a basic one up without having a ton of admin tools and logging, and we don't have to build PM right away.
It also kind of lets other players learn the game without having to directly start playing it. They can kind of see other people feel it out and get an idea for it.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point as well. So the more points that are brought up on this idea, the more I like the idea. It sounds like we're going to start with just chat. So what are the things we need to do? Let's take a second. 0.1 task list. What do we need to be able to do in this game? How much do we want in 1.0? We need to be able to change zone, 2 zones for PvP, non-PvP. We need to be able to hunt. We need to
add that there quickly.
Do we need the confirmation on hunting right now, or can we just go, that user goes exclamation hunt, and it checks their zone and then hunts, tries to find a creature. If it finds a creature, it says the display of the hunt status. Otherwise, it just says unsuccessful hunt. And done? Done.
I think it can just be passive right out of the gate. They can just toggle like a hunting thing. So they can do, I put command lists below so we can go over some of the actual commands that we'll need after. But yeah, I think maybe right now they're just kind of the same way that prey will graze. They'll just be grazing, and it'll be the same thing for hunting. They'll be hunting, and then it can just find someone and do it for the time being, and then we can expand on that later on to, you know, have confirmations and have yes. But I think at this point, there's not really any reason why they would say no if they're hunting. So maybe we can just have it be like, so and so found so and so, hunt ensued. This is what happened, and that'll just kind of be like a periodic thing that will pop up.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me, and honestly, I'm fine with it staying that way, and we'll see if people actually complain or want it changed after they start using it that way. We do need a way to display your info. Show the stats, how much energy, how much HP you have. So let's also do display short, which would just be HP energy, so that you know how much health you have and how much energy you have to decide if you want to hunt or just try to hunt an NPC. And NPCs will be easier to catch, and they'll take less energy to hunt, and they're more guaranteed to catch, so you're more guaranteed to get some energy back and a little bit of experience and stuff like that.
Yeah, we'll also need a way, at least initially, for new players to choose their starting species, which will get expanded upon a lot later. But to keep things, I guess, not spammy for now, it'll just be like a single
new player. Then we need to go through the creation process somehow, and that has to be least spammy possible. But it's still going to be pretty spammy, so it's probably going to suck the first day or so when it comes up, as the initial 10, 15 will create their first animals, but then it'll be significantly less. And the bot already recognizes different users by name. All of that authentication and everything is already done. So you can create your animal.
To answer Rifkick's question, I think there's going to be one playable character per player currently.
Yeah.
But later on we can explore maybe having things you can swap between, like an active character and stuff like that. But for the time being, we're going to keep it simple and just have you have your character, it binds to your name, and that's just where your stat.
Yeah, that people wanting alts is a success problem. If we're so successful that people are like, we want more characters, then yeah, hell yeah, we'll add that. But let's get to the point where people want those characters. Or you mean for testing as well, so you can roll different ones all the time?
You guys have the idea to like refresh or re-roll your character.
Ideally, that's the system that we're going towards, is as long as your stats meet a certain threshold requirement for the animal, then you can become that animal. So that's really exactly what we want to go for, yeah. So do we want to put in the XP system right away and start playing with raising stats? Because if so, then we will need a 0.1 interface for XP spending. And I'm going with the karma point spend system from Shadowrun. Driftkick. So you won't get a level and just a bunch of things go up. You'll gain the experience and then spend it training the different pieces of your animal you want to train. So you're customized exactly how you want to be.
Random idea. Maybe something we can do for like beta, at least alpha, like 0.0, like 0.1 testing, is maybe just have it hook into a Discord channel during the stream and not the actual stream at the time. So at least when we're initially doing it, we're not going to be spamming the chat with a bunch of debug messages and kind of flooding it that way. And we have at least somewhere to kind of user test right out of the gate and kind of run at the same time, at least for like even if it's just like our dev environment, where we can run the thing and test.
I'm okay with having like logging and stuff to Discord, but logging can also just be done to a file and read later. I do want the main crux of it all done in chat for everyone to see, especially because I don't have like my desktops are so busy when I'm streaming that I can watch chat, but I can't watch Discord and chat and other stuff. And I do want to see what's happening.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe just for dev then when we test things, and then because only thing that worries about that is that we're basically just testing in production, which is minimal but can get interesting depending on like RageBot's talking limit, and if we mess up an output and he outputs too much at once and then he locks himself out for like an hour, then it's like, ooh, bad time.
I mean, RageBot doesn't do that much right now. Anyway.
No, but I'm saying like it's a possibility because like we're gonna make a lot of mistakes, and if we make a mistake that like locks him out for an hour when we're trying to live test with the users, then it'd be kind of like an ooh kind of thing where if he just ends up spamming the chat and then we have to stop what we're doing and turn off RageBot real quick or like stuff like that. I'm just saying a limitation where if we're going to be testing in production, we're going to have to start being like really, really careful with what we're doing.
I absolutely agree. We will have to be very careful with what we're doing. It won't be like testing everything in production. There will be some done just by us in our own dev time, and before we push production, we're responsible enough to not push stuff that doesn't work and breaks RageBot. I guess we should probably do some unit testing for the core functionality of RageBot to make sure we don't break any of that.
Yeah, stuff always still just gets through. But I mean, like the worst thing that'll happen will just be he gets locked out for a bit, which I mean, that'll just be a limitation that we'll know right away. Being like, hey, this will sometimes happen. We're in alpha test.
Yeah, totally with you on that one. And we usually have more than enough moderators in chat to make up for a RageBot lack hour or so anyway. Okay. So should we tackle create new player first? Shall we look at this in...
Sure, we can start translating some of those tasks lists into the commands and what they'll kind of be, because I'm assuming they're going to be like exclamation point and then keyword and then value. So like exclamation point, create player or new player or something like that, and then the species name that you're picking, and then that's basically all that really needs to be.
So how do you guys want to join the game, basically? The create new player is essentially... So right now it'll be creating a player for you and then adding an animal to it. It'll all be one process. So this will call the new player. Then you choose your animal, and that's your test for 0.1. And it'll get wiped out all the time. So you're not locked to it. Don't worry. It's going to get wiped out pretty much every other week, and you can create a new animal all the time. Don't worry on that front. So what do you want? Like start? New?
I think maybe just new is probably going to be fine enough.
Join. Ideas from the peanut gallery out there. Guys thinking. And then it will respond with player name.
I don't think we need player name yet.
So
I probably can just create it.
Yeah.
Is it based off the username?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Bot sets player name to username. I don't think we can do two-way communication at this point. It's one-way communication.
Yeah. So it'll just create the thing, and then that's basically it. And then when you do the other commands, it'll look up and see the existing character there and use that for the...
So then we need another create animal.
Isn't that... Yeah. Isn't that kind of the same as just creating player? Because they'll just, like, the way I was envisioning it would be those commands that are...
So instead of...
And then the name of the species they're joining, and that's just the initial thing. So there'd be like new, and then like, I can't remember the list we had there, but like new goldfish. And then now the animal associated with your username for when you do these other commands is going to be that goldfish.
So what happens if you say new and you already have an animal? Wipes out your old one?
We can make that happen, or we can have a separate command for that, such as like.
So I'm going to just remove create new player for now. Create new animal, auto creates player if none.
Yeah, because eventually we're not going to be like creating, I guess, exact species. Like we'll have an actual interactive, like create a system. Like you choose your species and some stats and all that fun stuff. But for the time being, I think just for initial testing, they can just do new and then the thing they want to be, and then they're just that thing for as long as they want to be it. Because I don't know if we'll highly have. Like I said, we're going to be wiping it enough that I don't think it really matters if they erase their thing, because if they accidentally, for some reason, went like new goat when they didn't mean to, they can just go back and say new goldfish, and then they're back to being a goldfish.
Yep, and we don't have a way to increase stats or anything yet. You're just playing with base animals to play with the UI, so wiping out a species isn't a big deal. So new species, bot sets player name to username. If none existed, then you're registered. Bot deletes existing animal, if any. Bot creates new animal based on species input, if valid. So maybe we should. Bot checks if new species is valid up there.
Yeah, we're planning on having kind of species progression in the sense of like you'll start off at like the very base of a tree and then choosing through your kind of evolution points or DNA, going through and picking out different traits or different things and expanding it through that way. Not necessarily like a linear progression, but kind of the players will be able to grow into what they want to be or target to be.
So just because you start as a pack animal doesn't mean you can't eventually become a predator just by increasing your agility and your ferocity and getting whatever tags are needed to become that species. You could say, okay, screw it. I'm a shark now. Elephant shark. No, it totally means you can be the ultimate guppy. You can stay as a guppy with the guppy abilities and jack your stats up to the level of a Leviathan. And it's just whenever people try to hunt that guppy, they're like, whoa, that's a guppy. The progression is optional. You choose to become the different animal when your stats are meeting the thresholds to allow you to become it. It's all about player choice.
Yeah, it'll be like purchasing it with the points, I guess. Or unlocking those tags and then choosing them.
Yeah.
But you can just stay as a god tier guppy.
But starting as a guppy is not a bad idea because you'll probably start with water breathing and swimming, which are handy to have. That would definitely help you become a shark or a carp. So that pretty much handles create new player. We're just going to create new animal. Also might want reduce spam and prevent players from starting over from scratch several times in a stream. Well, it's not going to be a ton of output at this point, right? It's going to be exclamation new, check, 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 and then bot outputs new species created or ready. And that's really the only output that we're going to see. They change it, it's going to be, okay, changed, done.
Yeah, won't be too much different from someone just typing in anyways and putting an input. And there's already like Twitch limits on how much someone can spam, regardless of them trying to talk to the bot or not. But if need be in the future, we can always add some sort of cooldown to it where they can spam it, but then the bot's just not going to reply. But I doubt we'll get to that point, because if someone starts spamming it too much, then even like the moderators can say like, hey man, like, watch the spam, and hopefully we don't have to step in, but like if need be, like, we can always still like restrict people if they're getting a little too carried away with.
Yeah, we're giving chat the ability to shoot themselves in the foot if they really want to, and we're right there to take the gun away from them when they do it. So exclamation stats will just show your primary stats, health, and energy. Bot responds with your stats. Stats. Displays just your health and energy. Bot responds with HP, energy. Everybody good with that?
Yeah, makes sense.
I made sense. That means I need to smoke more.
That also makes sense.
Constantly reminded of your telling me when you went down to PAX, and they had an interesting discussion about how you can make, you know, the gap between players less. And one of the things they recommended was mind-altering substances for the person who plays better than the other. And you went, that wouldn't work for Deus.
Yeah, they were talking about Magic the Gathering as well as the example. They were like, yeah, we both play Magic, and you know, I mind alter myself, and they put us on the same level. And I'm like, man, I know when I versus Dez and he does that, it makes it even harder. He focuses more.
It's true. Of all the times we've drafted together, the only time Pseudo beat me was the time I was sober.
It was a good day.
I think he did more for the Nux than the Cats because he played his best on the Nux. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Lou was a fantastic goalie for us. So the Hunt UI. So you're just going to go exclamation hunt.
Yeah, I guess it makes it that you're active in hunting, which I think I can't remember if we're just going to stick hunting in PvP. I guess we can have it in both.
Yeah, the difference is when you're in the not PvP zone, you hunt an NPC, which is going to be a mouse, probably, or a rat, or something like that.
Right. Yeah, something with low stat, lower. Yeah. So then hunting just means you're actively hunting, and I guess cause eventually we're going to have like confirmation and other stuff going on, so you might as well build it in that way. But for the time being, it'll just mean that you're going on and you're ready to see some stuff happen, and then periodically you might find something, and then it'll hunt it.
Good. You cannot hunt. That's it. If you do exclamation hunt and you're not a hunter, you just get a you cannot hunt message and it finishes. Bot searches for prey. Once prey found, bot calculates combat. Bot displays combat results.
And I guess we can have the same thing for prey. It's going to be graze.
Do we don't even want to see the turn results right now, or do we?
I think I think it'd still just say like so and so, like this species, like this animal, or usernames, like I guess it would be like I'm trying to think of the text word, I guess, but it'd be like pseudo, and then the species I'd be would say if it was like coyote chased and hunted so and so's prey, or it can be like so and so's prey evaded pseudo's coyote.
Why
kind of
don't
thing
you
like
go
that.
ahead and write your 2 examples there while I quickly address what Riftkick said. If your prey exclamation hunt is the other type of hunt, that's interesting because one of the sessions you meant, I basically brought up exactly that idea with having a third area so that even the pack animals, the non-hunters, can still go and partake in an actual clash PvP where they're not trying to run, they're trying to compete for space, and we call it the mating grounds. I like the wavelength you're on, sir. It's almost like we know how to work together or something. I may have worked with Riftkick a little bit on games in the past. Jiggy jiggy.
Something like that.
Yeah, we know each other. Just a little bit. Combat results. Coyote Pseudo hunted and ate Guppy Roy. Raven Rage evaded Coyote Pseudo. Yeah, if that's all, and that's all you want the bot to put out? Just that one line?
Yep, just for the time being, I guess.
Okay, and then in, the only thing I want to add to this is, logging hit calcs, damage calcs, health remaining. Enough state information in the log file that we can go in and make sure that the damage is working properly.
Yeah, of course. It'll log at least every single transaction or step between the.
Display as. Okay. Can anybody see a hole in our logic for the hunt? Also, I hope you guys are learning a little bit about game flow design. This part may seem super simple, but once you actually sit down and do it for the first time with somebody, a lot of people start going, oh yeah, I guess we need to kind of know this, don't we? And it's not, it's not that they're dumb or, you know, didn't try to think it through or anything. It's just, I've never built a game before. Where the hell do I start? Turns out building a game is difficult and complicated. That's why a lot of games suck.
Extends to any product management. The more that you can kind of mock out and plan ahead of time, the smoother your actual development will be. Because the moment you start going through and you hit something that wasn't planned, you don't have anything mocked out for, it immediately halts the project to a dead still. Because you got to figure everything out, you got to see if it still plays well. And the less you have figured out by the time you're actually starting to do it, the more and more everything will kind of just be rushed and smacked together because you need to get things done. And then overall quality and overall, issues kind of rise up, and that's when you start getting kind of shitty games that lost sight of the initial goal.
The general math in any project, when I was doing project management classes myself, it was basically working out like, if you have an issue and you find it during the planning phase, it's a normal cost to fix. If you find it during the implementation phase, it's 10 times the cost of what it would have been in the planning phase. And if you find it in the final production phase, it's 10 times what it would have been in the implementation phase. You're looking at about 100 times the cost to go back and fix something once it's already done and finished, as opposed to the cost when you're planning things out. Take your time in your planning. It's going to be faster, it's going to be more efficient, it's going to be cheaper in the long run to complete your project.
It's also just easier for everyone. It's so much easier when you just have design documents just to run through and you don't have to. It's less thinking, more.
Link teaches the iron triangle. Does he also rescue Zelda? Seems like a busy guy. I realize I'm not funny. That's okay. I try. That's what matters. I laugh on the inside.
I laugh, I just forget to push my talk to speak button.
So changing zones. I mean, that's changing zones.
It's just a toggle. Yeah, it's just a toggle, same command.
exclamation move for now. Good.
It could just be exclamation PvP even.
Well, let's get them used to the commands right away, because we would like to have multiple zones eventually, and this puts right into that. At this one, it's only one command, no subcommand. You doing a chill stream? Quite possibly. Your herd automatically helps you when you're being hunted by bolstering your own stat values. It also lets you get more out of your grazing and stuff like that. So essentially, the herd being there makes you tougher, which means you're harder to hunt, which means you're harder to take out of the PvP zone. Not in the current design. Although that could be fun to work on at some point into a future combat idea. The ability to actually... I see that probably being alongside the idea where you can form groups and do a dungeon together, which is one of the ideas that was put together. And I think that requiring group combat ties nicely into multi-party combat with multiple players. Yeah, I agree. That would be pretty cool for later on. Especially, if you're... There would have to be a way to decide if they can work together. Because, I'm cool with a bunch of dolphins hunting together, but not a bunch of sharks. They don't work together. They'll circle and they'll all attack, but they don't strategize together. You can nest and invite players as your babies in the Isle. That's cool. We could even maybe do that as a referral system. If a new player joins and you have enough points to create an egg or whatever, you can bring them in and then you get a percentage of whatever they do, or they're automatically in all of your herds and stuff like that.
Inherit some sort of base stat or something.
Yeah. Give them a bonus. Give them a bonus for spawning in as us subservient of yours, basically. So, Board, you wanted us to be able to get enough done that we can actually put some code down, and we're basically at that point now. We've got our mock-ups. It turns out the mock-ups are not that hard. So now let's just finish doing more detailed calculation on combat. The combat module is going to be the most work now. The interface module is going to be super simple. Since the bot is already written to accept commands, we just have to write a game module with a few commands and register those commands into the bot, and then the bot can pull the strings in the game module. We're good to go.
Yay, message bus.
So, critical is ferocity and agility, and maybe luck, if we're using luck.
Should we also just put a little excerpt beside it for what it's going to affect?
Go ahead.
So we have how it's calculated, and then what it's going to affect. Do we want critical just to be double damage, or a percentage of increased damage, depending on some other?
So chat, how do you want critical to work? Do you want it to be a multiplier on damage, a base multiplier on damage, a variable multiplier based on animal, variable multiplier based on trait, variable multiplier based on trait and animal. I think it almost makes sense to have the multiplier based on the animal.
Yeah, certain things crit harder.
Yeah. What do you guys think? Because, like, a sonic shrimp is going to crit a lot harder than a great white shark, but the great white shark's non-crit is going to be deadly, so it doesn't need to crit, whereas the shrimp almost always crits and does a ton of damage. I'm always ranting about crits on this channel, so everyone should understand what the hell a crit is meant to represent by this point. A crit is meant to represent a lucky strike to a vital area. So, ferocity. You know what? Does ferocity affect crit, or just raw damage? Damage is substat. I think agility and luck are more crit. Ferocity is damage. Maybe even intelligence. Damage could be ferocity and agility.
That makes sense. Intelligence being you just know where to strike them, such as like biting someone in the neck versus biting them in the butt.
Yep, dolphins are a really, really good example of intelligence critical when dealing with sharks, for example. The dolphin's nose is not a high damage thing. They don't hit things very hard, but they know to hit the sharks right in the gills. And they just poke them in the gills until the sharks are like, I've had enough of this! And they take off.
Terrifying thing, the big dolphins, orcas, they know how to stop sharks from moving and then basically just suffocate them, which is kind of terrifying. Killer whales are freaky.
Yeah, killer whales are.
They just straight up just suffocate them and just like just hold them down and drown them basically. It's kind of
Yeah, and there's so many different attacks that they have with intelligence, like the creating a wave to knock things off of icebergs. That's one of the craziest ones to me. Which whale realized it could use fluid volume in order to displace the water and create a rise in it in order to push it over an iceberg and knock whatever is on top. Like, there's a whole lot of physics going at play. That's one smart animal. That's a complicated maneuver right there for a free lunch.
They also know how to use bait. They can spit out a fish, wait for a bird to eat it, and then eat the bird, that is nuts. Okay, a bit sidetracked.
So I'm going to call energy recovery. Because we have energy.
Is it something that we're gonna have? I guess we'll have it eventually, so we can write it down for now. But if it's something that's gonna happen mid-combat recovery, or if that's just something that items are gonna just
No, the way I'm imagining energy is it's your points in order to do things in the game.
Oh, like AP?
Yeah.
Or action points, for those that don't know.
Yeah. So you can't just hunt forever. Every time you hunt, you use an energy or a couple energy or whatever, a random varied scaling number in some sense, but the HP and energy you have will be fairly static based on the animal type. Some have more energy than others. And then your endurance will be your ability to recover energy. Because we didn't have endurance anywhere in there. And it is an important stat still, but it's basically only your energy recovery. Which may not sound like much, but...
Could also be a bit off vitality, too. It could be the combination of the two can kind of sound more like healthy, like an actual, like a bit of a healthier animal will gain its energy faster.
Vitality is also just being big-bodied in general. So I'm thinking, like, an example of a
Yeah.
Blue whale and other large things that aren't very energetic. They can have bursts of energy, but they don't do it very often because they can't afford to. So I'm thinking vitality is probably going to be the opposite in energy recovery.
But it might work depending on how it's used, because their action points might just have an absorbent cost, or charge a lot faster, but it still takes it a lot longer to recharge to a level where it can be. So then you can kind of scale certain stronger abilities by having a more higher action cost versus other ones that don't do as much, but you can use them over and over again, but it'll take you a while to regen to that level, but it still needs a significant amount of regen.
That's fair. I'll leave
But
it, I'll
I'd
leave
agree.
it in there.
Yeah, for now we can. I'm not sold on it because I do agree that if it's going to be like a whale, it doesn't make sense for a whale to be doing a lot of shit all at the same time and then not getting tired, because those things can tucker themselves out just by swimming up to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
But in
yeah,
theory,
that's,
they do have massive energy reserves because they consume an insane amount of calories.
it is true they have massive energy reserves because they need them. So it's more, do we want to consider vitality a scale of, or a ratio of energy used to energy had, or do we want to think of it, because then we're just scaling them both up, trying to represent it.
Or what we could do is have it be like I'm not sure if we want to do negative modifiers, but have it reduce it a bit, so like those bigger you are, it'll have a negative effect on your energy recovery, so that maybe we can use it to emulate like slowness, such as like an elephant will only be able to swing his head around because he will, tucker himself out a lot faster than say like a mouse is sprinting around and jumping constantly.
So that's a pretty damn good idea. It's a much simpler way to demonstrate exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's good too. I feel like that
Couldn't have done it without you here, buddy. I'm glad you came. Energy bar. Yeah, doesn't matter who you are, sometimes you just get stuck in a strange loop or rut and you need somebody else to go, you're being an idiot, look at this. And we don't have bleeding yet board. I did totally read it as you said it, but I was working on something else, but we can add it to venomous. Bleed. I'm totally down with a bleeding ability. It might not be a tag. I've added it into tags just randomly here, but we'll probably come back to tags and go, bleed, that's not a tag, that's an ability thing. But yeah, totally down with certain abilities causing bleed. I love my dots. Do you understand the term dot? You're gonna have a bad night. I'm sorry to hear that. Do you understand the term dot? D-O-T. The opposite of a dot being a hot. These are terms we're gonna use a lot. A DOT versus an HOT. You're too preoccupied by your Bruins dying, and everybody else is just lurking and doesn't want to admit if they know what it is or not. So I'll just let you know, just in case. A DOT, what we were just talking about, is a damage over time, common term in MMOs. And an HOT, or a HOT, is a heal over time. So a bleed is a dot. I like dots. Venomous is a dot. Poisonous is probably a dot if you manage to kill them, which we enjoy. We like this idea. I guess when we introduce the poisonous is when we'll have to introduce the, do you actually want to hunt this? You know?
Yeah, or will you be able to survive its damage back to you, kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when the, like, you found this, do you want to hunt it? That's when that will have to come in.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like, you found a A dart frog. Do you want to hunt it? No. No, don't hunt that one. That's bad. That's bad. Don't eat the dart frog.
Maybe we should add poison resistance to some sort of substat.
I'd rather do it as a species thing.
Yeah,
As a tag on the animal, yeah. So like a certain raccoon or the one squirrel, I can't remember the type of it. It's the reason that the rattler has such venomous poison. Venomous venom. That's why it's so toxic, because its primary food is constantly becoming immune to it. So it's constantly becoming more venomous to try to kill this thing, and these are constantly becoming more immune to try to survive. It creates an arms race. So then the rattler is super poisonous, but it's just that one squirrel counters its poison.
Not those goddamn honey badgers that are just immune to most venoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, put out the tag, because then maybe we can maybe expand on it to make it a bit more complicated if needed, but like it would be certain kind of venomous traits that you can be immune to, or you can build immunity for, but maybe not all of them. So maybe it can be, resistant to snake venom, but not resistant to like the poisonous effect of a frog.
Yeah, exactly where I'm going with it. And because it's aliens that are invading, horses as well are resistant to that venom. Excellent. Good to know, though. Thank you. Because this is an alien invasion and the animals are fighting the aliens, we can also go fantasy far out stuff with the tag by introducing like acid blood that you can tag yourself with, adopted from the xenophages.
Those things, good old acid. There is an animal that actually has acid blood. I'm gonna search this up.
Why does this not actually surprise me?
There's something. It has a corrosive property, or maybe I'm just still in Vegas brain and can't remember.
Ooh, that dab's for you there, Rift Kick. Cheers low. Cheers board. Cheers Rift. I say that one's for you, Rift, because that was LA sunshine. The Sonoran desert toad has DMT. Yeah. So maybe... Hey, low. Okay. So I love that fact. And how about we work it in this way? The Sonoran desert toad is a rare, random hunt NPC worth double experience. You'll learn more from eating it. Remember, XP is how much you learn, how much you improve. Done and done. A little bit of luck in the game. Luck is becoming another fantastic stat to get. You learn faster, you're better in most combat things. Not a lot, but a little bit. But everything, pretty much. Oh. Oh, is RageBot even on? I don't think it is. I don't think he's running it right now. Sick. Fortunate. Otherwise, I would pimp this. If anybody wants to tag along, there's the document that we're working on right now. Feel free to view it. You can go through all of the past stuff that we've been working on. Talks about our restrictions, requirements. You can look at how we actually got started with the game, because we started this game with a completely blank slate. I don't know if the people that are watching all remember when we first started this, when we came out, we didn't even have a theme, we didn't have a style, we had nothing. I was like, what kind of game do you want to make, guys? This is all viewer input pretty much, the whole game. Until we got to the technical side of things, it was all viewer input. So let's talk about basic classes. Family starters: fox, sandcat, hamster, chickadee, goat, goldfish. But do you really start as a fox? A fox is pretty top tier. I think you still have to work up to it. I like where Rage was going from this, but you're going to be mutating into different animals all the time. And like, we don't have a shark starting. I guess a shark is a fish. But that would be more, I think we need to go more generic than, and fox and maybe even sandcat would probably come out of hamster.
Maybe. I think the model we have right now is probably okay, because hamster is going to be like a prey or a predator. It's going to be prey. So it'd be kind of harder for us to go from prey to predator right out of the gate if we want to have some predators in the game.
Yeah, and we're not allowing them to change right away.
I think those ones we have there are, I think, fine for the version we'll have. So I think we have a balance of predators and then some prey. And may want to even add like another predator or two. But it's fine, I guess, even to have more prey than predator out of the gate.
I think just those 5 where we start.
Also, I found that animal I was looking at. I think it's either a lizard that shoots blood, or it's the beetle. The beetle that shoots a corrosive acid out of his butt.
Oh, there's a lot of ants that do that too with the corrosive acid.
Good old acid spray, and I think it happens too. If you eat them when they're startled, they'll burn you up. Creates an acid that heats up to 100 degrees Celsius.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, that's the beetle, but the ants that do it. Real interesting thing about the ants, they don't naturally produce an acid. It is a manufactured acid that they carry with them and use as a weapon, created from the environment around them. Ants are fucking crazy.
I'm very glad that they're very small. I woke up with an ant crawling on my face this morning. It was not good.
I hate ants.
It was kind of a freaky thing. They get everywhere. They're so
Ants
also, if you try to squish an ant on a bed, it doesn't really work because it's just too squishy, and ants are too tough.
Yep.
So that was a very interesting battle in the morning.
Yeah, 10-foot ants would conquer the planet.
I think even like 3-foot ants would conquer the planet.
I don't know. Our guns will still go through most 3-foot ants.
They burrow. They burrow hardcore. If they're 3 foot making these tunnels, man, we would get 8 real fast.
That's true. We would have casualties. I think we could still win.
If
They were
Rage
like-
was here, he'd be yelling Earth Defense Force right now. So I'm gonna do it.
EDF! EDF is a hilarious game. Okay, so any input from you guys on this? That's what we're looking at. That's what you're going to be able to be at the beginning. A fox, a sandcat, a hamster, a chickadee, a goat. You're back. We could even do smaller. Like I was saying, we don't need to do fox and sandcat because you could do like a rat. Like even like 2 rodents is fine. It's not a problem to start as 2 rodents. The rat gains enough points and mutates into a cat. isn't a big deal. That's sort of what we're going for. Oh, I don't think we need to keep trees based on family type like we're doing here. I think it's really more size that we should be doing. Size and predator or prey is what we should look at.
Yeah, I think these were just there was categories and things here at the start. I'm not sure if we're going to go full-fledged model because we're going to do the tree model I think a bit later. But right now we're just going to have these, and there was going to be no upgrading yet. But when we added upgrading, we were going to kind of blur the lines between the family.
Like, go away. What I'm looking at is ooh, that's just a squiggly line. S. Size. What was I thinking? Hold on. I had it. I guess really it's just plotting size. I guess this would be like a time progression. Because we just want to turn it into a curve. We would want to size versus time played. So all the smallest stuff is what we want here. So if cat's bigger than some of the predators, then for our first predators, we would want them even to be multiple.
Is bigger always better though? I thought we would have some things that might be small but could still be more powerful than the bigger things.
Give me an example.
I mean, certain smaller creatures will be able to have certain poisons and certain different attacks and stuff like that, rather than just being big, because that's just going to be all vitality then. Then most of the other kind of agility and endurance stats don't matter if we're just going to be min-maxing vitality.
But fair enough. That's so let's call this power. Oh, that really worked out. There we go. Power as opposed to progression time. So then we should be looking at balance first. Come back. Here we go. So put it here. 0.1 animal options. Okay. So what do we want? Like 2 predators, 3 prey?
Sure. Seems like a good fair balance.
We're not going to be worried about pack or not. We just want small starting animals for now for testing. So it's not going to be fancy, it's not going to be crazy, but I like the start of the rat, a good predator. Also a scavenger and a pack, but it's a predator for now. Hamster. What else do we have in there? Chickadee. It's a prey animal, right? What do they eat?
They eat, yep. They eat seeds, I think.
Or we can even start with those 3. Unless you guys can think of other small things. You want some insects?
Maybe not that small. Maybe we can get down to like worm level of like puny. So then we can eventually implement, but maybe they keep everything kind of like a relative size.
Do the insect expansion, where the insects mutate and grow into a sizable force. Or we could work in a feature where your size increases how many are in your own swarm. So you're not just an ant, you're, 30,000 ants and then 60,000 ants and 80,000 ants and then 2 million ants. 1 billion ants. You're back. We're looking at starting animals. How about you, Lo? You have any little animals you would want to put in the start, or do you think 1 predator and 2 prey is fine for testing initial stuff? That's probably good for testing initial.
Keep things. It's always easy enough for us to add more.
Yeah, that later on in more versions we'll be more adding, but let's just start with this because we need to figure out HP for each one and starting stats. And tags for each one. And then we're done and we can actually create something. We can probably get started with where we're at, but this is the next step, so let's try to figure out these 3. This part will be fun. Everybody is welcome to do this part. We're going to be primarily taking your guys' input on this. Let me pull up. Pseudo, can you do the filling in while I look at our notes and stuff?
Sure.
So abilities and tags and looking at this stuff, base health. I'm going to say the base health of you can just create a heading and then put those headings that I put there for each different animal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll do this. There we go. Huzzah for a big monitor. Please let me know if the font's too small for anyone. Alrighty. So starting HP, I think the rat should have more than the other 2. The rat may be like 20 and the other 2 10.
You think it's gonna be straight HP, or we'll be doing like vitality? I can't remember. HP is a difference.
Well, we'll see how far we get with it. We need stats, so ferocity, agility, vitality, endurance, intelligence, luck. Beer and blunt shears. Welcome, Raven. How you doing? I just did that, guys. I can't do that right now. I've got to get work done. Nanu nanu. All right. So a rat. Shall we scale this?
I maybe just use 10 as base if we want, or even 5. I think 10's fine. So maybe rats will have 15 ferocity, where a hamster and chickadee will have like between 3 and 5.
Sure. Is a hamster? Why not normalize first? I'm with you. What do you recommend? 0 to 100, 0 to 1. Then come up with your base. Well, we don't want an upward limit per se, but an upward starting limit.
We can always just times everything by 10. Want some more breathing room.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think
like we always say,
between
bigger
15
numbers
and
are
150
bigger numbers are easier to balance. So like how ferocious is a shark? Great white shark.
I'd say that'd probably be in like the thousands compared
Okay.
to like the tens here. So then it'd be in the 100,000s versus the hundreds.
Well, we can like these are the least ferocious. Like a hamster, I'm down with being a 1. What's less
Hamsters
ferocious?
bite pretty hard. I'm not sure hamsters can actually get kind of vicious, at least more so than a chicken. They do eat each other.
Okay, okay. What's the least ferocious creature?
Probably a worm. But I think some worms eat things. Or
Well, you're saying an earthworm, maybe. You know, that just
probably
goes through the dirt. I'm going to follow along right now. I'm in a car and getting bad connections. I hope you're not driving. So don't try to follow along and drive. That's a bad idea. This is why we had to like if the great white is the most ferocious and we can establish the upper bounds, then we can sort of start to place things. And if we take a large enough number, then we leave enough wiggle room for figuring out where it is. So yeah, if a great white shark is like 1,000 ferocity, then that works for this to be like 3, 5, and 15.
yeah. I think at some point we'll need to have something at least close to 0 relative to having it, and then because then that way there's a reason for us to be at 100. And at least gives us some scaling room for the rest of the stuff. Because I don't think we'll need to tweak starters too much. Because I mean, they shouldn't have too much of an effect, and players should be able to evolve out of a starter pretty quick. But I think we should have an example of a prey that's a slightly more ferocious. Like I think 5 is okay. So like at least this one can be more about like stand its ground and try to kind of do a little bit of damage and get away, where the chickadee will just be trying to hightail it out of there.
What's a predator but not quite a rat? Without getting into insects.
Yeah, for that size, the size gets hard. I mean, there's some predatory birds that are fairly small.
More at that power level.
I mean, a kitty is pretty small. I'm not sure if you want to do cats, if you want to do like an actual just kitten, or like
Although
a mink.
it would be a cat, but a kitten that eats a rat pretty easy. Same with a hamster and a chickadee.
Yeah, or like a mink, like the weasels that we have here.
The goog, a mouse. Some mice are
There's like small snakes and stuff like that. There's some very small little snakes that still eat, like garter snakes and stuff like that. They can eat like a hamster and a chickadee, but its jaw can be too small to fit around a rat.
skinks. The type of lizard. Yeah, the sandcat is quite small. Except Arby's. Nothing eats Arby's.
I still love the Simpsons bit about that, where they're stuck in like a deserted island. It's like, I'm so hungry, I could eat it.
I like the idea of the skink. They're a size? Oh, blue tongue skink. This is a 4-inch stormwater pipe. So it's like almost 2 inches across. So it's not that big. It would probably be able to eat a hamster. It could eat a chickadee if it could catch it. We're trying to avoid the sea as well. The sea will probably be an expansion. Insects are an expansion. Just trying to stick to a little subset of creatures that we can test. We don't the narrower we keep our testing, the easier it will be to test the core systems. Does that make sense? I think I'm good with rat, hamster, chickadee.
That's fine for now. I mean, we can take a. The idea I had for this was to do like a non-code approach for actual implementation of animals. Keep everything in like a data model, like a JSON object that then gets parsed into the system, because that way we can, in real time, add animals at any point and adjust them.
Yeah,
Tweak
I figured something similar. Like a NoSQL data set that can be updated and returned and stored in a JSON object for long-term storage, so that we can update it easily just by adding data in through command line, or you can change the JSON file and then the next time it launches it'll.
Yeah, I think just a JSON file that it just reads into memory would be fine.
Yeah, at the beginning. Tasmanian devil. Another thing we can do, let's quickly think about this, and I think the viewers might like this idea. How about we choose a certain size, and that's where their animals start, and anything under that size is NPC. This way you take out all the boring beginning, like hamster and whatnot, and you start as a cat or a fox or something of that size. That power level anyway.
Yeah, I totally forgot that we were going through these base stats. We should probably get these fleshed out before we run out of time.
Yeah. Let's give some basic numbers here, and then we'll test with these animals anyway. But then when we actually evolve a little bit and we get the next animals decided, this will all be NPC stuff. So only you very first testers will ever get to play as a rat or a hamster or a chickadee, probably. How's that?
I just thought of something we can always add later, some sort of achievement system.
Oh yeah.
And we can reward initial testers with, achievements that you could only get during the alpha phase. But these stats, so we can go through the rat for agility, vitality, endurance, and luck. I'm not sure if we need to set luck for these guys now. That's something that's really going to be like species specific.
No. Well, none of these are like a final, right? It's just a starting.
Yeah. I guess just to mock better data.
We can totally do an extinct expansion at some point. Or it'll basically be like this. When this gets to the point where there are people playing it and it's fleshed out and working, and we're to the point where we're able to add more content to it, it'll be up to you guys to decide what content we want to add. That's how we'll do it. We'll start doing votes and polls. Chickadees are pretty agile.
Oh yeah, I'd say way more so than a hamster.
So what's our top end scale, you said? 1,000? 5,000?
I'm not sure if we have like an upper limit. So I guess it depends on like how far it keeps going, right? But I think
we have to have an upper limit for nature.
Yeah, but I mean, like even then, depending on like but the easy scale. I think for like small tier things, I think 100 is probably fine as an upper limit. I don't think it makes sense for something to have like over 100 if the other base stats are kind of closer to 10, or even maybe even so 50 at that point. So they're all kind of relatively close, but still far away.
But
Kind of.
we still need to understand where the stats are going to end for nature when we're deciding this.
Yeah. It's going to be probably um, hundreds of thousands, I'd imagine. Even, like I said, it depends on. Things will always get stronger unless we want to stop people from gaining levels. If
No,
we
no,
have
no.
some sort of like capped end game.
We're talking for nature so that we can determine these. So, like, the strongest things in nature are going to have this much of this stat. That will help us determine how many stat points people are going to have to get, so how much experience they're going to need, how many stats they're going to have to gain over a certain amount of time in order to become that thing. As well as doing ranges to make their comparisons make sense. Right? We're not talking about an absolute max that people can reach. We're talking about a sensible max.
Then I would put 25 for agility, or 20
As the max?
for chickadee.
Okay, but what would be? Because they're pretty agile.
Yeah,
They're actually
we're mixing this up a little bit because like we got a little confused here because then we're putting the max for a rat roster to be 15 then. I thought we were just mocking out the stats that these things will have for when we run through everything else for like the combat that's going to be there.
That's what these will be down here. But then, like, how much you would need to be. So if you were a rat, you start with these. Those are the requirements to be a rat, basically.
I thought rat was a start though.
Yes, it is. So the requirement to be a rat is what you start with if you start as a rat. Does that make sense?
So you can be something less than a rat? Or like, that's just what you have, right? That's just the stats you have. Or do you just have stat points, you put them in what you have? I think there's a part of this that you have in your head that we haven't put down yet because it's kind of confusing to me right now.
Okay, no problem. If you're a hamster, you can still become a rat, right? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So in order to become a rat, you would have to get the rat's base stats.
But we don't have assignable stats yet. I thought we weren't doing that till later. So what we're mocking on right now is for something that we can prototype.
Okay. Let's just throw some numbers down and we'll figure it out later. That's fine.
Yeah. My point is we're running out of like time right now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to leave pretty soon so I can have some numbers down so next week we can prototype something out and actually get some sort of combat running through before we start worrying about switching stats and other stuff that we don't have planned out yet.
Good enough?
Fine. I think those make sense. Only thing I'm unsure of is what would be more. Actually, no, yeah, that makes sense. That a hamster is less agile but had more endurance, and then they all have the same amount of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
The endurance comes from I too have had hamsters, and they can run on that goddamn wheel forever compared to other animals.
Yeah, yeah.
Might search for a keyboard on Google Play with bigger keys. Oh, the digital one. Yeah, do it. Sudo. You've used a lot more Android. Do you have a recommendation for an alternate keyboard to use?
No, I ended up just getting a big phone because I couldn't find it. So I have a Note 10, so my big old sausage fingers can actually type on that keyboard. But boy, I feel your pain. I have big hands and I can't type and mistype everything and push like 3 buttons at once, and it's a hard time. I think if you browse the store or anything that's higher rated, should be able to be available, or find something that's kind of customizable, so you can remove all the kind of bloat you don't need. So it's just like the characters, and you don't have to worry about like numbers and everything. You can just have those behind a toggle.
So we ran a little over, but not too bad. We got a lot done. So thank you very much for joining Board, Low, Rift Kick, for all your suggestions and input. It was super, super helpful. Pseudo, thanks for showing up. Hope you had fun in Vegas. Sorry Rage couldn't join us. I'll be sure to catch him up. So next week, panel will be a review of what I thought of. Till next time, yes. Next week we'll be talking about the last 2 games that I played. So I'll talk about my thoughts on Outlast, and Pseudo's also played it, so he can talk about his opinion of it, and Rage can put his input. He got to see the whole playthrough, and we'll also do Middle Earth, Shadow of War. Talk a little bit about that, the good and the bad, and fill out our reviews, and then those will be made available to you afterwards. Eventually we'll have names. What will have names?
Like character names. Originally, like right now, we were going to go based off the current player's username, but I think eventually it'll be something that won't be too hard to ask from us to be able to name the character they're playing as.
Yep, I'm sure we can do that. So until later, where I'll probably be streaming later, but watch for the announcement, because I might decide that I've done enough for the week. But I will definitely be back within the next day or so. Until then, thank you very much for joining. I'm Deus.
I'm Raid. I'm Pseudo. Taking over his job. I'm so used to that being the 3 things. He's here in spirit.
Yeah. No, he's now officially here in spirit. Saying, may all your shots be headshots.